You're listening to Rafa Said It Here, a podcast about spirituality, mental and emotional health, and the real stories of everyday people finding their way back to themselves. I am Rafaela Silva. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rafa Said It Here. My name is Rafaela Silva, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. If you are new here, make sure that you hit the follow button and also the subscribe if you're listening from YouTube, and also the notification so that you can get notified of my latest episode. And as always, we're going to jump right in or dive right in, as I normally would say. So today we're going to talk about why going on contact is much more than abuse, narcissism, and also a toxic environment. And of course, this is coming from a spiritual outlook. So this is not from a psychological outlook. This is not from a therapy outlook. Not even a coaching. This is more from a spiritual lens. So for those that are listening, just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. This is from a spiritual perspective. At the same time, I am talking from a spiritual perspective. It does not mean that you should not seek professional help. It does not mean that you should not seek a psychologist or a therapist if you're dealing with trauma, if you're dealing with any type of abuse or anything that you might need that professional help. Okay. So this does not take away professional help. Okay. We're still here living a human life. Okay, but I just want you to understand it from a spiritual level, why some things are happening the way they are, okay? So as you know, as you can see, because of all the things that are happening in the world right now, there is a lot of civil unrest, right? There's a lot of things going on, and we're like, what is happening? Why is so many things happening all at the same time? There's wars, there is chaos in different parts of the world, and it just seems to be happening all at the same time, and we don't even know exactly where to look. It's almost like, when you do a spring cleaning and you shake everything out. When the spring cleaning, you take everything out. And it becomes overwhelming because you don't know what to focus on, what it is that we need to be looking at, and exactly why is all happening at the same time. And so as I began to think about that, I began to think about also how relationships are also taking a hit, especially relationships when it comes to our parents. As everybody know, there's, this idea of going no contact is causing some upset because people are just not understanding why children or are going on contact with their parents, right? From a psychological point of view, from a psychological point of view first, we all a lot of us grew up under a particular generation that had a view of life, and we were all raised underneath that view. And because of it, we carry certain traumas from that era, right? So of course, if we're coming to grips with who you are, we're coming to grips with an awakening, it's like we all gonna deal with it at the same time. So it seems as though like, oh, not everybody's dealing with the same thing. Well, because we were all raised around the same era. So it is the consequence of that, right? So we're all dealing with the consequence of that. But one generation that I'm noticing that it's much more prominent and increasingly going on contact are the Gen Zs and the Millennials. Okay, they're increasingly um, are the ones that are taking that leap, and that's because there's a huge gap between a generation that were very dominant and very controlling. That is, in my personal opinion, the baby boomers. Right, I am a child of a baby boomer, but beings, new beings that are coming to the earth, the Gen Zs and the millennials are coming to really shake things up. Like they're the ones that are shaking things up that is causing a ripple effect backwards. So me being a Generation X, have felt that, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's time to let go of people that are constantly. And this wasn't my first time letting go. Going on contact with my family. I've gone on contact many times, but this time was like, okay, there's got to be the reason why I had to keep removing myself from this space. And that's when it dawned on me, as the reason why spiritually this is necessary. It might be happening, which we're going to get into it, right? But I just want to give you some numbers here really quick. So apparently, according to the New Yorker, 38% of Americans have gone no contact with their parents, right? What their reasoning is, they're saying that, one, we all know it's setting boundaries, protecting mental health, and escaping toxic relationships. Um, Also, the most common reasons for includes also repeated disrespect of boundaries, mental health struggles, ongoing negativity, and major differences in values, right? Um, and of course, like I said, like I mentioned before, people are like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Because again, I mentioned this the other day to someone, uh, about how we're here to bring in different things, to bring in evolution. We're not here to continue doing the same things our parents did or our grandparents did. We're here to shift the whole paradigm. We're here to shift this world, right? So, so what came to me as I began to think about why there are a lot of us that are going no contact with our family. And this is what came to me. There's a whole consciousness that is changing. Like our consciousness is changing, right? Um, and also because our consciousness is changing, we are seeing the civil unrest that we see in the world. But why? Why is there a consciousness change in civil unrest? So think of it this way, right? If you're under a system of control, and all of a sudden you understand that, wait, I'm the creator of my own reality. That means I know who I am, which means that nothing can control you. So what happens is those that understand that, because those that a lot of people that control understand that, right? If they know they understand that what's guess what's going to happen? They're going to try to do whatever they can to continue to have their hold over you by all means necessary, right? And so a lot of the unrest is the clash between the awakening and the system that is going, head to head with each other. We're like, we've had enough. We don't want to deal with this anymore. So the uprising, right, of consciousness is taking place. And so what happens is as that is happening on the outside in the world, also has to happen within our inner circle, and that can include family, includes parents, include sometimes even friends, right? Because and the reason because a lot of our parents are part of that system of control, right? And they don't know. Well, let me just say that some of them are still not awakened to what is right and why are we actually here. So So, of course, in order for us to go through our own integration so that we can be ready for this new world, this new level of thinking, this new consciousness, we need to integrate. We need to go through this integration process, right? Which I want to talk about in just a minute. And we cannot integrate while still being under a system of control or still dealing with, still being in a space where trauma was caused, right? So, or the abuse was caused, disrespect. We can't integrate under that particular place. So in some cases, we have to go no contact in order for us to fully integrate. And what exactly are we integrating into? Right. So right now, what's happening is humanity is ascending into 5D consciousness, also known as Christ consciousness and also known as unconditional love, which is a shift from fear based, ego driven 3D perception to a heart centered, unified, high frequency awareness, which is our authentic self. Okay. This is who we are. We come from that space of unconditional love. And the whole goal for our even coming here was it to evolve, to experience that which we're not, yes, but not to the extreme that we are experiencing. Okay. And like I mentioned before, the reason why that has to do with our parents because they are a whole generation of beings that came like we let me just back up a little bit. The reason why it has to do with our parents, as I mentioned before, one, because they are a generation that grew up in that particular system of control, right? And a lot of us came here to help the earth, to help with the ascension of the earth. Okay, many of us did. So what happens is a lot of them are refused to loosen that grip of control. And because they're refusing to loosen the grip of control, like I mentioned, in the same way, an external, non-external world, right? Um, our parents are doing the same exact thing. Some of them are refusing to let go or even change so that we can be fully integrated. But it's also important to keep in mind, okay? And I think I mentioned this before, maybe on my either one of my episodes or one of my posts. I don't know. Children do not belong to their parents. Okay. We are all independent souls, and our parents are an agreement that we made before we came here. But it doesn't mean that they have control over us. Okay. So, yes, we came here. Our souls came, were infants, young children. The agreement was for the souls of our parents to take care of us, to be able to give us what we need in order for us to have the resources to be able to do what we came to do here on this earth, right? So that's the agreement that they made with us. But they don't get to dictate um, how our life goes. They don't get to dictate what we dream about. They don't get to dictate what we get to do. They don't get to dictate who we need to become. We need to, our natural talents, our natural ways of being is going to indicate immediately what that is supposed to be. And their role is to lead us in that way. So there's a scripture that says, um, teach the child in the way that it should go, and when he gets old, he won't depart from it. That scripture does not mean to tell the child what to do, what they should become, but rather be pay attention to what that child naturally does and what that child naturally um exudes, and then begin to lead them in that way. Let me give an example. So if a child has dancing skills and music skills, then your role as a parent is to get the music lessons, it's supposed to nurture that gift and that skill, right? That is the agreement here. But what happens a lot of times because of the fear, survival, that system of control, parents say, well, you need to get a job, you need to go this, you need to become a doctor, you need to become whatever, but accept your natural gifts. Now, I'm not saying that work is bad. Okay. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like what is natural of you to do? What did you come to be in this world, in this particular time on earth? So that is the reason why we had to break free from that system of control so that we can be integrated and so that we can be able to carry on these gifts and our purpose to why we came here. Okay. Now, some of these parents are aware and they do understand our assignment. Okay. Some of them do know. Sometimes, for example, if you have a child that has some child has psychic gifts, they're able to see dead people. They're able to see, I don't say dead people, people that have passed away, souls that have passed away. Some children are able to see things very early on. And you know that about your child. Let that child express that. Don't shut it down. Don't, you know, um, Don't say that your child's crazy or imagining things. They're not imagining things. They're bringing with them messages from the other side. They're bringing with them technology from the other side. Okay. And so a lot of parents, they do, some are not, some are unaware. Let me give an example. Um, when Jesus's mother, Yahusha's mother, when he disappeared, I don't know if you guys, or those are Christian might know this passage. He disappeared and his mother was worried sick looking for him. So when he finally finds him, and this around this time, Jesus was about 13 years old, I believe. And the mother was like, "We were worried sick, you know, looking for you. Where'd you go?" And Yahusha doesn't refer to her as mother. He says woman, because at that moment, he who was talking to her was not the 13-year-old boy. It was the soul that said, I was about my father's business. Like, why are you shocked, right? You know who I am. You know the child that was in your belly. You know the miracle that was inside of you. Why are you over here questioning this or trying to take that control of that whatever it is, right? And so, and this is Yahusha wasn't disrespecting their mother. He was reminding his mother, like, you know my assignment, you know my purpose. And so some of the parents are aware, and some of them sometimes try to stop it from happening, okay? And some of them are not, okay? And a lot of times, the ones that are aware, a lot of times will try to create a narrative and program that narrative into your mind so that you cannot fulfill your assignment. So they try to hinder it and stifle it. And that is the reason why a lot of people are going no contact because their soul is like, we got work to do. We got things to do. And we can't be underneath this system. Okay. We got to go. Okay. So a lot of times um, the soul says, I can't be under that. All right. Next thing is going on contact. Sometimes is forced by our souls. A lot of times we're like, well, I know, I understand, I'm here to do this, but that's my mom, that's my dad. And the soul's like, no. When the moment that you become aware of who you are, which it goes into my next, comment is the moment that you're aware of who you are, fully aware, okay, your concept of family changes. It's actually gone. I'm gonna give you an example of that as well, okay? Um, so there is a scripture in Matthew 12, verse 46 to 50, where this is when Yahushua is coming back from his trip, and he's in the public park kind of sort of space, right? And the scripture says, and while he was still talking to the crowds, see his mother and brother stood outside, seeking to speak with him. And one said to him, see, your mother and your brothers are standing outside, seeking to speak with you. But he answering said to the one who spoke to him, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And having stretched out his hand towards his taught ones, which is his disciples, he said, see my mother and my brothers? For whoever does the desire of my Father who is in the heavens is my brother, sister, and mother. Now, again, Yahushua wasn't disrespecting his mother. He's saying, look, my soul is an independent soul. I get to say what is and what is. I'm the one that's making the decision. I don't have to stop what I'm doing. I don't have to stop my purpose because my mother, my father, and my brother's over there. No, your soul is an independent soul. Okay? Your soul is an independent soul. Well, the scripture is actually pointing to us is what Jesus was teaching a lesson. He was like, I want to tell you something. You can't stop, nothing can stop your purpose. And no distraction should stop your purpose, right? His purpose was to like, I'm not here for a very long time. I'm exiting out at 33 and I got work to do. Okay. Because I always said that your family is like the moment you become aware who you are, this idea of family losing its grip. Okay. Because everybody becomes a soul. Even at the end, when Jesus was in a cross, Yahushua was in a cross. And I think it was James that was there, one of his brothers. He tells James, "This is your mother." And he's like, "Look, I'm 100% aware of who I am. I'm a independent soul, and I'm here for a particular purpose." Okay. So again, the moment that you become fully aware of who you are, the concept of family is gone. And our integration also allows them to be a witness and to choose to let go and heal. So who we become also allows them to say, wait, why did I come? Why am I here? They begin to ask those questions for themselves. Okay. One thing that I want to point out about when Yahusha says, um, there's a scripture that Yahusha says that the Father and I are one, right? And so your higher self, which is your soul, which is also your Godhead, desired and designed this experience. And the Godhead is the Father, what you most people call the God, the Creator. That energy, that energy source lives within you, lives within all of us, right? And that is the Father. That is who we call the Father, the originator of all things, right? And why did I bring this up? Why is talking about this important? Because I know there's a lot of people that are experiencing that severing of relationships. And I just want to let you guys know that this is part of the plan. And I'm expressing this because many still feel the pain and guilt of going on contact. Okay. And I just want to let you know, don't feel, okay? Don't feel because they're not willing to let go of their ways of being. And you have a role to fulfill. Your soul has an assignment to complete. Okay. So trust your inner compass. When this is complete, we will all know all truths, but remember who you are and why you are here. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification buttons. And happy May. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Rafa Said It Here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can get notification of my latest episode. Sending you love.